Hello friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a front-end development library certification. This is one of the projects for the end, the 25+5 development clock. Okay, so you can start with any mix of HTML, JavaScript, CSS, Bootstrap, or these other ones. You should use a front-end framework. I'm going to use Bootstrap, like React, for example. We're not going to use React. I'm not familiar enough with that. We will accept and try to fix all issue reports. Okay. They want it to act similar to this code pen. And we're going to actually develop it and deploy it using GitHub, GitHub pages. That way that we can make it public, and I think that helps develop your public portfolio. We've done that in the past. Okay, so the first thing that I'm noticing about this is we want to get our code in here. Now I want to use Bootstrap, and I find that when doing a project like this, using Bootstrap, the quick start guide is the best way to get started. So I'm just going to copy this starter template here, and we want to copy this into our HTML page. But we haven't even started this project, right? So let's open up a terminal window. So I'm going to go terminal, and then in here you can write ls. That'll show you where you are. If you go pwd, that'll show your location. So I'm in the root file here. I'm going to want to build this on my desktop. So I'm changing directory into the desktop. And now I want to make a directory. So make dir, and I'm going to call this one 25. I'm going to call it 25 and 5 clock. Cool. Okay, so now if I list out everything on my directory, I've got 3 folders, and now I've made this 4th one. So now I want to change directories into there. So it's change directories into 25 and 5 clock. And now I'm going to add a file. So I'm going to say touch index.html. Okay, cool. And now I'm going to say open that with the application of Atom, which is my text editor. You can use whatever text editor you want, but I'm using Atom, and I'm opening index.html with Atom. Cool. And so now I have already copied this code here. And so I'm just pasting that into here, and we'll just make these, the title of it, 25 plus 5 clock by a useful programmer. 25 plus 5 clock, useful programmer. Okay, so these are JavaScript scripts. We don't require them. They say 2 options, so why, I don't know. We'll just get rid of those. So we get to choose one of the JavaScript ones, so I'm going to choose this selection. Now this is pulling from a CDN, so it might be more intelligent to import this, like download the files and actually include them in our folder, but I'm not going to do that for now. Here they're just saying that that's the CSS, and then these are the required meta tags, so we're keeping that all in there. And then I'm just going to put a paragraph thing in here, and then we're going to say clock code here. But this is just for starters. Okay, so now that I've got that saved, we should open this up, but instead of going Atom, we're going to go Google Chrome. So I'm going to open that up in Chrome, and now we've got our clock. And you see that because we've added this script tag, the style strap, and these JavaScript tags, we have access to the fonts changed. If these things weren't here, and I'm just pressing Command / in order to comment it out, it would look like a static, normal HTML page. Okay, so the first thing that I've noticed is that we have this testing script here. So let's bring that in. If we were to look at the code pen, oh, they don't want you to look at the code. So let's look at it here. Yeah, here it is. This is the code that you can bring in to inject, to bring that with you. So you can build your project by clicking Save to create your environment, or you can use a CDN to run the tests in any environment you like. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to add that. I think it needs to be here. Script is equal to, or source, and then I'm going to put this address in here. I'm not sure if I need to do anything else. So let's just see if that works from now. So if I save this, and then I go back to my project here, and I refresh. Cool, it worked. Now we have the tests, and it says 25 plus 5 clock already, so we can run the tests. And now we're failing. This is great. Now we can do what's called test-driven development in order to get things up and kind of move quickly. So if we look at our tests, it says, I can see an element with an ID of break level that contains a string. So the break length. Okay, if I look here, break length. Okay, so they actually just want a div that says break length. So let's add that. We can go div ID is equal to break label. And within this div, we want the string break length. Cool. Now if I save this and I refresh the page and open the file back up and run it, it looks like we're passing a test. Cool. So our first test is complete. So they want one. Now, instead of going through each one, I'm going to kind of go through these a little bit quicker this time. So I can see an element with an ID of session label that holds the string session length. Okay, so we can just copy this and then paste it in and say session label. And they want session length. Cool, so I could save that. I can see two clickable elements with corresponding IDs, break decrement and session ID decrement. Two clickable elements. All right. Sweet. So I'm going to press Command click, and that's going to get me two cursors. And so we want to see two clickable elements. So clickable elements, we can use button. So now we've got two clickable elements, and then we want to see, I want to see two clickable elements with corresponding IDs. So ID, and they want it to be break decrement and session decrement. So I'm going to go break decrement, and then we'll make this one session decrement. And I want to make this, I'm just going to put a minus sign in here just so we can see them. And I can see two clickable elements with corresponding break, decrement and increment. All right, we just did that one. Increment and increment. Okay, cool. So I'm going to copy this guy. Wait, I wonder if I can copy, highlight it like that, and then highlight it like this, and go Command C, Command V, Command V. Okay, cool. And now I've added break increment. Well, let's add increment here. Yeah, because we want to increment. And then we'll do click here, and make a plus sign here instead of a minus sign. So now if I save the page and I refresh here, we see that we have a increment and a decrement. Now, I don't really like the way that these look right now, but for now, we're just focusing on getting our tests to pass. We can worry about how it looks later. Cool. So now we can see we've passed 4 tests. So this is moving on quickly. So I can see an element with a corresponding ID of break length. And I'm going to space these out because it's becoming hard to read. Okay. So now I can see an element with the corresponding ID break length, which by default on load displays to a value of 5. Okay, so let's just add that in here. And it has an ID equal to break length. And we close that. It has an increment of value of 5. Break length. Okay, cool. And so I can see an element with a corresponding ID of session length. Oh, well, this is the break, so I want to add this guy up to here, and then I can just copy this and make this session length. And that wants to have a default value of 25. Cool. So now if I save that and refresh this page, you see that we have break length and session length. They're here. And if I were to inspect the element here, by right-clicking on it and then pressing I for inspect or clicking I, you'll see that we're showing these things here. So session length, break length, these are all corresponding to our code. Cool. So now if I run the tests, we're passing 7 tests, which is great. I can see an element with a corresponding ID timer label. Okay, let's go div ID is equal to timer label, and we close the div. This contains a string indicating a session is initialized, e.g. session. Indicating a string is initialized. So, well, let's just say session here. So if I save that and refresh the page, open this up, run the tests, it looks like number 7 is passed. So that's what they were looking for. Again, we're not styling this yet. We're just moving through the test-driven development. I can see an element corresponding ID of time left. Okay, so div ID time left. And then what is that? Time left or running. The value in this field should always be displayed in terms of MMSS. So we'll go 2500. Okay. And I can see a clickable element with the ID of start and stop. So a clickable element, we'll go button again. butadiene. And we want it to say with an ID of start/stop. And let's make it say start/stop. Okay, cool. I can see a clickable element with reset. Cool, let's just copy this one and then make this say reset. And we'll say that the ID needs to be reset. Cool. All right, so that's it for the tools. So now that I've saved this, I press Command S over here and then refresh this page. If I run the tests here, it looks like we have, oh, we don't have time left working. All right, so I can see an element with the corresponding ID of time left. Div ID time left. Paused or running, the value in this field should always be displayed in MMSS. Time left is not formatted correctly. Expect 25 to equal 60. Well, that's strange. Let's make it 60. That might make it so it works. And I can see a clickable element with start_stop. Okay, so I made a mistake here. It should be start_stop. So I press Command S and refresh here, and then run the tests. It looks like I can see an element with a corresponding time left. The time is formatted incorrectly, 60 to equal 25. Okay, so now it's just going back and forth. So I'm guessing that it's failing a different test, and then this is going to be, in order for us to get this to work, we need to get the timer to work. Okay, so it looks like we have a bunch of timer functionality here. And this is when I click the element with the ID of reset, any running. Okay, so everything else in the timer I'm going to cover in part 2 of this. Part 1, I'm just going to get the front end, the content looking good. So I'm going to close out of here and then close this guy. So right now we have this, and it's not looking fantastic right now, right? Let's bring Atom up even more. We won't need the terminal for a while. So everything in Bootstrap, let's see if I can find something. Let's go to examples. Oh, no, not there. Examples. Okay, so everything in Bootstrap works kind of on a container system. So what I'm trying to do is just find something that sort of mimics this. And so what I'm seeing is this guy. The album sort of mimics that. We can get these thumbnails to work. Cool. And then with this, if we were to right click here and click inspect, we see that we have, okay, so here header, we've got our main section and then our footer section. So they're keeping everything in a main section. Within the main, they're doing this Jumbotron. We're not going to focus on that for now. The Jumbotron is this top part. You notice how the header's not included in there. The header is just this album part at the top. We're not going to have that for ours. Our main section is all this stuff. And then the footer section is down here. Okay. And then within the footer, there's a container. Okay, so the main section, then there's 2 sections. What basically all we want to mimic is just this section, right? We're going to have something similar to this. Okay, so you'll notice in Bootstrap, they always start with container. So I'm going to start here and say edit HTML. And then I'm just going to copy this. Command A, Command C. And then we can just put this guy, we can put it in here at the bottom of underneath our things. Okay, so now when I look at this, we don't need all this stuff, right? But we do want a container and a row. And then within that row, we're going to want columns. And here they're saying a column of 4. Container, row, and then they're doing a column of 4. And then they're a column of 4 and column of 4. And they're not separating them. So it's div, it's container, row, and then call MD4. Okay, cool. So we only want 2 columns. And so it's 12 rows all the way across. Right now they're divided up by 4. So on a medium screen, MD, we're putting 4 across the way. And so we want this to be MD6. And we want to get rid of all the other columns. So we want these 2 columns, but then we want to get rid of all the rest of them. So I see this is a column, this is a column, this is a column, that's a column, that's a column, that's a column, that's a column. and I want to get rid of all of them. So I can just delete there. Now you see my divs are a little messed up. It's important to keep your divs exactly right. Now if I save this and I go back to my clock or my project and refresh the page, we see we have two of these thumbnail things. We'll adjust these a lot, but right now I want to first off make it so that these are in position 6, which will fill the page. Okay, and now what are we going to do? Well, I want the break length and the session length to be on each of these cards. So if I look at this, I see column MD6, I see the shadow. This is the placeholder. Well, we don't need this in here, so we can get rid of the placeholder because we're not going to use that. So if I save that and refresh the page, you'll see that we have this. The only thing I want in here are my buttons. We don't want this 9 minutes situation here, so we can get rid of that. Save that. We've got those done. You'll notice our buttons, they have these cool kind of increment and decrement button styles. So let's leave that on there for now. We might as well leave them as a button group. And then we have our P classes. So, because what we could do is make this break length and then session length. Yeah. So let's see. We can get rid of this here, this P tag. Just get rid of all the filler content in here. And the same thing with this one. And then instead of having our session label, no, our session length and our break length up here, we can move these down here now and make it here. Oops. Okay, so break length. Well, actually, you know what we should do is move the whole thing. Break length, break and decrement. Let's move this all into the card text. And we'll do the same thing with the session label. Now if we save that, cool. Now we have our break length and our session length held within these cards. Cool. And then we could actually move this H1 tag up to here, so then that will be held within there. And then finally we have two columns, right? This column and this column. Well, we want a third column to be very similar to these, except for this is going to have the session length on it, right? So we can put that, copy the last column and put a last one on here and make this with a width of 12. So if I were to refresh this, the session length fills in this spot, but we want to get rid of the code in here, which is duplicated from up here. We come up here and get our session timer code. So this is all the stuff that we wrote to pass the tests for the session timer. And we take that down to the third column and we place that within here. So if I save this and I refresh the page, cool. Now we have now it looks pretty, now we've got everything broken up. So we've got our session length and our break length and this. So yeah, how about we convert our buttons, instead of having the IDs be on here, we can make this guy start stop, and we can make this reset, and then move the IDs into their respective tags so that they fit the buttons from our example. Cool. So now if I were to save this, you'll see we have start, stop, and reset. So I can get rid of the blank buttons, and now we're mimicking the Bootstrap design. With the session, what we could do is make this one of a class equal to card header. And I'm pretty sure that will give it. Okay, in order to get it to be a card header, we want to add it into here. And now we've got our session set up there. So what did I do? Here is our body tag, our card body. We want our card header tag to be opened and closed outside of the card body tag. So now we'll do that up here as well. So instead of, oh, and you know another thing is right now I have our ID set in front of our class. So let's keep that behavior up. So here I want to move the ID, and this is just for the sake of having clean code. I'm going to add that ID to behind it. Okay, so here I can add again, on the session length, I'm going to say class is equal to card header. And then I'm going to move this up, Command X, to be outside of the card body tag. And that will make our session length look like that as well. And again, what we can do here is we can take our ID of class increment, and instead of adding it there, we can add it to here. And then instead of having the increment there, we can add it here. And then session decrement, add that here, and then make this a minus. Now, our session length, I think we can keep it there for now. So if I save this and I refresh the page, you see we have 25, and we have our buttons here of plus and minus. Cool. And then we'll do the same thing with our break length. Break length is 5. We're going to leave that there. So here we can take our break decrement and add it before the class, but after the type. And then we can take our break increment ID and add that here. So increment's going to be plus, decrement's going to be minus. And now if we save that and get rid of these guys, and then instead of having this card text be here, we can make this our card, or our class of card body, or card header. And if we save that, we should have our length. Okay, cool. And so this is going to be mobile responsive. You can have this shrink it down and bring it back out. I think with this, we could also add a class is equal to text center. And then that will, text align center. Text MX auto maybe. Yeah, MX auto. Okay, cool. And then if we put padding of 5 on here, that'll add some spacing in. So you have our useful programmer 25 plus 5 click. Yeah, I'm gonna add a breakpoint in here and say useful programmer. That doesn't look good. We'll just keep it like that for now. Okay, cool. So now we have our front set up, and let's see if we've broken the tests. Looks like everything's good in terms of our content, and our next section is to focus on the timer. The timer section of this one is going to be the more difficult one. You'll see some of the tests even take a long time to run. It hasn't even completed yet. But yeah, right now what we have is a functional front end and back end. I think for the scope of this section, right now we've built a front end that we can utilize to work on the JavaScript. So for now, I'm going to stop this tutorial right now, but we'll see you in the next part of this 25 plus 5 project.